Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of PowerCore Productions and Podcastings. And we have now reached the end, the final part of Data Live Spirit of the Spider, What If Shido with Spider-Man 2099, Season 1, Part 5. This marks the final part to the stories for Phase 2 of Anime X Marvel. The next time this story continues, it will be in the concluding movie of the Spider-Verse, titles to be announced in the near future. First and foremost, I want to take the time to say thank you. Thank you to everyone who has been following along since the beginning of Phase 2. For all the stories, whether some were your favorites more than others, the fact that you took the time to watch everything from start to finish, it truly means a lot. For this series, we planned for things to go out with a bang, because something much greater looms just on the horizon for Shido and his friends. However, as Shido believes he has solved one problem, there are more that loom in the stars and in worlds beyond. Without further ado, let's get into today's video, so as always, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Shido was not sure about what to do regarding his predicament. First, there was Kotori, and the recent discovery that she was actually a spirit. Then there was the issue of what happened 5 years ago between Shido, Kotori, and Origami. The incident that took away her parents. The incident whose memories of both Shido and Kotori had been lost. Why had they been chosen? Why had things played out the way that they did? For Shido, none of this made sense. Even more so, why did Shido have the ability to seal away the power of the spirits? This was something that he still did not know. All the same, what mattered now was the safety of his sister Kotori. Her life hung in the balance. And, as Reina would make very clear, time was of the essence. For Shido, he couldn't afford to waste it, and thus preparations would be made for the date with Kotori. But of course, there was still the likes of Origami to deal with. However, Origami was in her own crisis, as she tried to figure things out for herself. The identity of the flame spirit. She had an idea. She had always had an idea. But now there was only the matter of confirming her suspicions. But if she did, then that would only lead her into more conflict. There was Shido. He was the Spider-Man, the one of whom had been getting in the way of the AST. Of course, the AST weren't sure of how to engage with him, since technically he hadn't broken any laws, and if anything, his presence only seemed to calm the spirits in its recent developments. But all the same, if he were a potential threat, someone that could be a security risk to the world's safety, then they would deal with him accordingly. Everyone had mixed feelings of the situation, not sure of what to do or of where to turn. While Shido would make preparations for the date, Origami would be making preparations of her own. Not too long after she recovered from the hospital, she would be given a debrief. The AST had recently acquired some new upgrades in the form of the DW-029 Annihilation Gear, codenamed White Licorice. It was sent by DEM Industries, originally to be used by Mana, but she was still on the mend. Of course, Origami was more than willing to pilot, but her commander made it very clear that she wasn't authorized to even use this gear. Even for someone as experienced as Mana, the max output, it could only be used for around 30 minutes worth of time, and it was taxing and draining on the body. For someone that had recently recovered from a near-death experience fighting against Nightmare, she was the last one that needed to be piling it. But all the same, within Origami's own heart, the flames of vengeance burned brightly. Eventually, the time for the date would arrive, as Shido would meet with Kotori as they were going to go to the amusement park. Of course, things don't always go as planned. Yoshino and Toka tagging along to serve as moral support for Kotori. For Shido, it was simpler just to roll with the flow of things, rather than trying to complicate it in any way. Kotori, while she was definitely happy to be taken out, felt a little uneasy. From being the one in the captain's chair, the one that was planning the dates, to now finding herself the subject, it was definitely a shell shock in role reversal, but nothing in a bad way, nothing that Kotori wouldn't have minded. For the most part, the day went rather well, everyone enjoying the rides, the water parks, the food, the atmosphere, and everything that came along with it. However, for Kotori, Shido could see that there was something bothering her. When Toka and Yoshino had gone off to continue enjoying some of the various rides and the water slides, Shido decided that it was time to take things one-on-one. Of course, this only being recent after overhearing Kotori and Reina's conversation, as Reina had given Kotori a dosage of medicine to help dampen the spirit's power that was overflowing inside of her. Of course, Shido didn't mean to overhear, but seeing just how much she was struggling, and for how long she had been, he knew that he had to free her from this burden, sooner rather than later. As such, he had decided to make things one-on-one, even going as far as to abandon the communication device that he had had on him, much to Kotori's chagrin. And just why would you do something like that? Because I want you to know that every decision I make, I'm making it because I want to make it, not because I'm being fed information. I appreciate the help from Ratasker, don't get me wrong, but this requires a different touch. So, you want to get going now? But what about Yoshino and what about Toka? Kotori would ask. They'll be fine on their own. They're still enjoying some of the rides. Besides, I want to spend time with you. Really. The two would leave, going to a different part of the amusement park, going on different rides together, and enjoying the vibe and the atmosphere, with Shido not being bogged down with coming up with different responses or different answers to every situation that could pop up on the date. It didn't take long for Toka and for Yoshino to notice that Shido and Kotori were gone, with Yoshino explaining to Toka the real reason for the date, and how important it was for Shido to be at his best, and for them not to interfere. Toka would show a strong level of understanding, although in the end, like any good friend, she was still concerned for Kotori, for everything that Kotori and that Ratasker had done for them, and for Shido. They had saved them from a terrible fate, a fate that could have led them down the path of causing senseless destruction, or even worse, their own death. For Kotori, they simply wanted to return the favor any way that they could, and ultimately they decided the best thing they could do was to simply stand back and wait, and to allow Shido the time necessary. In the midst of the fun and the amusement, Shido and Kotori would sit together on a bench, the both of them taking a break from the day's festivities. During this time, Shido would look to Kotori. Kotori was a bit nervous. Of course, while technically speaking, there was the issue of siblingship between the two of them, Kotori had more underlying feelings, and for Shido, well, these were things that he would rather not get into. Right now, saving Kotori's life was the most important thing. But he wanted to ask about 5 years ago what had happened. He had recently seen footage, surveillance if you will. What he saw that day, there was a spirit, but it wasn't Kotori that caused the destruction that came. She wasn't the one responsible for what happened to Origami's family. This he was confident in. But for Kotori, it wasn't enough. She had always had the lingering fears and the doubts. She wrestled with them every night. There were things that she was able to push down, but after a while, they came to the forefront. What if she was responsible? What if she was the spirit, the one that caused all of that chaos 5 years ago? Her memories couldn't tell her otherwise. And for Shido, he was only just starting to gain recollection of what had happened. However, before their conversation could continue any further, Kotori would seemingly be vaporized. The park bench Shido had been sitting on had been reduced to ashes, and what was worse, a force field was keeping him away from finding what had happened. Hovering in the sky above was Origami. Shido tried to get out, but he found himself completely stuck in a force field, and it was made specifically to not allow him to escape. He looked up to see that it was Origami, the one responsible. Origami, what are you? Shido. Under normal circumstances, a simple barrier would be more than enough to keep you away. But you and I both know that you aren't entirely ordinary anymore. I have to say, the spirit signature you get off, it's very similar to Mana. You must have undergone the same treatment as her. It explains a lot. Origami, what are you? I know what I have to do. And I know that you're going to try to stop me. That's why I'm going to keep you here for a while. Everything will be okay, Shido. I need to do this. Was this your famed counterstrike against me? They would hear another voice, seeing Kotori was completely fine. I gotta say, if this is the best that the AST has to offer, I'm fairly disappointed. I mean, just how reckless can you be, firing off a weapon like that in a populated area? Do you even care about the civilians you could have hurt? I mean, I knew the AST were a bunch of reckless gun-wielding Lucies, but even still, I would have expected more decorum from— Shut up. Shut the hell up. You're going to die today, you damn devil. It's gonna be at my hands. Big talk. I hope you can back it up. Kotori would transform into the flaming spirit state as she would engage in battle against Origami. Shido, in the meanwhile, had transformed into the Spider-Man. Using all of his strength, he pushed against the force field, using all of his power to try to break free. However, this thing was strong. It was strong enough to contain a spirit. Contain a spirit. That's it. Shido would focus within himself. His body was like a storehouse of spirit power, and he had 2 of them. Of course, pulling it to the surface was easier said than done. Shido may have been the storehouse, but he couldn't really use what was stored inside, at least not at will. It only came in flashes, in brief spurts. Sometimes Toka's power, sometimes Yoshino's power. He couldn't just summon it at will, but if he concentrated hard enough, if he focused, just bringing the power out, even if it was just the after effects, that dispersed of power would be more than enough to break the barrier, and he would be proven right. Once it was broken free, Shido would follow behind the fighting that continued, Kotori battling against Origami, Shido attempting to stop them in the process before one would go too far. Kotori's power was starting to flutter in and out, not allowing her the concentration or the control. Origami would take the advantage, getting ready to fire upon her, only for two webs to shoot behind her, dragging her to the ground. As Origami would try to regain herself, Shido would get on top. For once, Origami would have to say her humblest of apologies, as she would throw a series of kicks and punches his way. While Shido had been taking combat lessons, he didn't have the combat skills to call himself a pro in any manner. So, when it came to hand-to-hand combat, Origami had the advantage. And in the specialized suit that she was wearing, she had the strength to go up against an elite spirit. The suit, known as White Licorice, had the power of an entire squad of AST soldiers, and Shido felt it at full force. The punches, the kicks, the knees to the gut, he felt every waking, excruciating shot that was delivered towards him. Origami could see that he was fighting on the defensive. He was definitely good at blocking, even a bit of dodging and countering, but he couldn't really go on the offensive like she could. Shido, you need to get out of my way. You might be strong, but the way I am right now, you don't stand a chance. Yeah, and what am I supposed to do? Sit back and let you kill my sister? Your sister is a murdering spirit. Do you know what she's capable of? Do you even know her at all? Do you even know yourself? You don't know anything. I know enough. I know that this isn't you. You're not a killer. You don't know me. You may think that I'm some sweet and innocent person, but I assure you I'm not. It's my duty to kill spirits. It's what I was always meant to do, and that's never going to change. It doesn't matter who it is, Shido. It doesn't matter if it was Kotori, Toka, Yoshino, anyone. A spirit is a spirit, and the only good spirit is a dead spirit. Do you really feel that way? Tell me, what would you do if you were a spirit? Origami would stop in her tracks. What? If you were actually a spirit, what would you want then? Are you saying that your life has no value? Is it just that easy to throw it all away? Her answer would come in the form of an uppercut kick, hitting Shido directly in the chin of his face, knocking him on his back. Origami would use a device from her machine, shooting it at Shido. It was like a handcuff. It had anti-gravity effects, and the cuff that was on Shido's wrist kept him on the ground, keeping him from getting up. If I ever became a spirit, then I would pray that someone put a bullet in the back of my head. You don't mean that. I do. I'm sorry, Shido, but you can't stop me. It doesn't matter what you say or what you do. Either I die or Kotori dies. You can't pick. There is no saving the both of us. Origami would be blasted back with flames as Kotori had rejoined the fight. If you really feel that way, then allow me to oblige. Kotori, don't! I'm sorry, brother. I won't allow her to continue her rampage, and I'm not going to let her harm you. It's me she wants. Justified or not, I'm going to give it to her. She's clearly suffering, and if killing her puts her out of her misery, then I'll do what I must. Kotori, stop! This isn't you! You're not a murderer. You're not a killer. You weren't back then, and you aren't now. If you kill her, you'll only validate everything she feels. So what? So what? Are you really just that determined to throw your life away? My life was going to end one way or another. Shido, it may have been brief, but I had fun. You were the best brother that any girl could ever ask for. Truly, I couldn't think of anyone better than you. I am grateful. Toka and Yoshino could sense what was going on. They would arrive to Shido's side while Kotori and Origami would continue the fight, both girls reaching their limits. Origami's body couldn't handle the usage of the white licorice armor, and for Kotori, her power was starting to overwhelm her very body itself. She couldn't keep going for much longer. At this point, it was simply a matter of which girl would fall first, or the worst case scenario, that they both fall. Death, destruction, fire, brimstone, mayhem. Kurumi watched it all. She saw through her eye. She couldn't help but smile. She saw multiple futures and outcomes. A future where Kotori has her head severed off her shoulders. A future where Origami is burnt to a crisp. A future where they both go out in a blaze of glory. So many destructive and deadly outcomes. But a part of her wondered. She looked up to the sky. If you can change the future, show me, my precious spider. Live up to those words that you so arrogantly spoke to me. If you truly believe that you can change one's fate, then prove it now. Show me, Spider-Man. Shido would eventually set himself free from the device that kept him captive, as Toka and Yoshino used all of their strength, all of their power to help set him free. Shido, what are you going to do? If they keep up at this rate, there's only going to be a matter of time. I know. That's why I need you guys to buy me time. I need you to stop Origami, however long it takes. The two would nod as they left, the both of them colliding with Origami, keeping her at bay, long enough for Shido to get to Kotori. While the two girls would hold back Origami, Shido made his way to Kotori. The power had now reached its critical mass. She couldn't go any further. She felt that this was going to be the end, only for Shido to catch her in his arms. He lifted up his mask, the two of them now being face to face. Shido? Kotori, it's all right, I'm here. I need you to know, I too am grateful. I'm grateful to have you in my life. I'm so proud of you for everything you've put yourself through, for everything you've continued to do. You've looked after a no-good brother like me for so long. And all the same, you're a very strong girl. And I couldn't be any prouder to know you. As he leaned in to kiss her, her power would start to dissipate. Her emotion levels were at an all-time high. A positive reaction, to say the least. As Origami had managed to get past both Toka and Yoshino, She now lowered herself to the ground, her guns at the ready. Shido standing there, Kotori lying on the ground behind him. Her scanners were to target Ifrit, but now they were locked in on Shido, as Shido stood at the ready. Why? Why are they trained to you? Shido, you're after Ifrit, right? Shido, answer me. It's Ifrit that you want, not Kotori. It doesn't change, it does. I remember what happened 5 years ago. Kotori didn't murder your parents. You're lying. She's the flame spirit. The flame spirit. Yes, Ifrit was there. But Kotori is also a victim of Ifrit. Whatever Ifrit was, it was inside of her. And now it's in me. Use your scanners. You can tell as clear as day. And I don't just have Ifrit, the princess, the hermit. I have all three of them. Her scanners would confirm it. All of the spirit energies, all three could be confirmed inside of Shido. Shido, what are you if you want your revenge? If killing a spirit really means that much to you, then do it. Take me out. Shido, what the hell are you? Go on. Killing Ifrit, killing the spirits. It's what's most important to you, right? You said your own life didn't even matter if you were a spirit. What a load of bull. Every life is valuable. Every life is precious. Don't try to measure one against the other. That includes your own. Don't ever say something like that. Ever again. Shido. Shido would walk closer. He got close enough to the point where her gun was pointed directly at his chest. If you ever want your revenge, if you ever feel like your vengeance is too much to bear, then you can take me out. I won't stop you. I won't even put up a fight. If killing Ifrit will give you closure, then by all means, do it. But why would you? Because I don't want to see you in pain. I'm sorry about what happened to your parents. Truly, I am. If this will give you closure, then I will gladly give my life to you. You don't have to murder Kotori or anyone else. And they don't have to fight you. You don't have to put a life for a life. And if any life needs to be lost, then it's mine. Shido would smile. I have no regrets. Whatever you decide to do, do it. Origami would put down the gun. Even if she wanted to kill Ifrit, she could never kill the man she loved. It was almost the greatest of ironies. Here her vengeance lied right in front of her. And yet, for her to take her vengeance, it would mean killing the one thing she knew she couldn't live without. In the midst of everything that happened afterwards, Kotori had finally returned to normal, and she was back to her old self. Of course, they still had to learn about what happened 5 years ago, at least while they still had their memories, assuming they hadn't been tampered with to begin. All the same though, for Shido he was grateful. Everyone had lived, no one had died. Of course, there were going to be more troubles in the future, more spirits, more enemies, more dangers that came along the way. There were those who wanted to use the spirit's powers for their own nefarious means. There were other forces out there in the world, good or evil, who was to say? Life had a funny way of working out. Things often come when you least expect it. One day you think you're living an ordinary life, only to discover that your stepsister leads a secret organization. Your real sister, long forgotten, is a part of another secret organization. You're given power beyond your wildest dreams, but with that power comes responsibility. A great responsibility, you might say. And for Shido, it's a responsibility that had fallen to him. Something that only he can do. Who is Shido Itsuki? For many, they say mild-mannered high school student. For others, a complete enigma. But to the few that know, to the few that will ever know, he is far greater and far more than even your wildest dreams. He is amazing, ultimate, fantastic, but above all else, he is the one and only Spider-Man, guardian of the spirits. This concludes Data Live, Spirit of the Spider. What if Shido was Spider-Man 2099, Season 1, Part 5, the Season 1 finale. Now, for everyone who's currently up watching this might be a special treat for you, since I normally save these videos for Saturday, but after a long, and I mean long journey, and with the finish line still on the horizon, I'm uploading this video Friday night so that I can get some much needed rest tomorrow and Sunday and get everything set up for the closing parts of Anime X Marvel Phase 2. But all in all, thank you. Thank you to everyone who has followed along with this series, who's followed along with every series we've done here on this channel all the way back in June, July, now coming up at the tail end of August. We're now in the end game of Phase 2. So for everyone who's shown support, everyone who's shown love, your likes, comments, subscribing, all that good stuff, I thank you all very much. Like I always say, I can't do it without you. You make the channel grow. You make the core grow. Stick around next week because we are going to be doing a Phase 2 recap, recapping all of the events and stories of Anime X Marvel Phase 2, The Spider-Verse, and then we'll be doing Spider-Verse Parts 1 and 2, and that will wrap up Phase 1. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings, signing off, and I'll see you next time.